Hello viewers, welcome. In this video, I'll be discussing play Macbeth, the tragedy of Macbeth. In earlier video, I have discussed part 1, means act 1 of the Macbeth. Now I will be discussing here act 2 and act 3. So let's begin act 2. Scene start with scene 1. Banquo and his son Fleance are walking around the courtyard of Macbeth Castle in Inverness. Sleep is not with them. They are not able to sleep. Banquo is suddenly aroused by arrival of Macbeth there. Macbeth tells him that King has given generous present to Lady Macbeth and his servants, and King Lady Macbeth has been given a very precious diamond by King Duncan. The king, he says, is now fast asleep in his room. Then Banquo tells Macbeth that he is surprised that there was some truth in prophecies of that witches. And what do you think? Macbeth is in no mood to talk about the subject, so he tells Banquo that they would talk about this prophecy at the latter part and more in a more convenient time. Now Banquo tells him that he can talk about the whole matter at the convenience of Macbeth, so don't worry. Okay, we will talk it later on. But he says that he would not be prepared to do anything. Miss Banquo is saying that he would not be prepared to do anything that would harm or compromise his loyalty to King. So he says that I am very loyal to King and I will remain loyal to him throughout my life. Now Banquo and Fleance then leaves the place of Inverness. Macbeth is left alone there. He is again worried by his conscience. He is in dilemma. He is in two mind. He imagines that he sees a vision of a dagger, the type of weapon he is going to use to kill Duncan. This sight makes him frightened, and although temporarily, not for a long time, then he is remembering his purpose and golden opportunity that he has come his way, and he stills himself against his conscience and decides to murder the king and agreed upon the signal. Soon he hears the bell, the signal at which he would kill Duncan. He moves towards the chamber where, unmindful of such a trickery, and unknowingly King Duncan is lying fast asleep. He is sleeping innocently, and then this at this point, this scene ends. Now we will move forward with scene 2. In scene 2, what happens? Lady Macbeth enters in the castle courtyard. She is visibly stimulated by wine. She has drunk wine in much quantity. She tells that she has drugged two chamberlains who guard the bedchamber of King Duncan. So he has even drugged bodyguards of Duncan also. But she suspects that her husband might recoil or might get away from agreed upon task. So she is doubtful about her husband. Soon Macbeth joins her and tells her that he has killed King Duncan, and there is no worry, I have killed him, but he is shaking, he is nervous, he is very disturbed. Both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth are tense. They recoil at hearing the sound of owl shrieking. They are very frightened at shrieking of owl. Macbeth is disturbed by sight of blood upon his hands. He says that he was unable to say Amen when he overheard a guest in an adjoining room saying, God bless us. He imagines that some voice said that since Macbeth has murdered sleep, he would not be able to sleep anymore. Now, Lady Macbeth tries to console her husband by saying that such deeds must not be thought upon in this manner. Oh, don't worry, everything will be okay. Now we have achieved our task, and don't worry, you will be king soon. She advises him to wash his hands, and so that the evidences might be destroyed. In dismay, in fear, she finds that in her agitation that Macbeth has drawn his daggers up the chamberlain to that place. And now she tells Macbeth to return to that room and leave the daggers with the sleeping chamberlains, and smear the men with blood of Duncan so that they can be framed. But Macbeth refuses to re-enter again to that scene, and he is very guilty. He's feeling very guilty at this. Lady Macbeth mocks her husband and decides to undertake that task herself. Now she goes with dagger and goes inside the room, and she put that there. Macbeth is left alone and reflect that not all the waters of the ocean can wash his hands clean. He is feeling so very guilty. Why he killed that benevolent king, the king who has given everything to him. Now his wife re-enters with her hands as red as his, but she is not panicky. She is very uh, in cool mood, and she's I can say the silent killer, and she is then in the meantime there is a knocking at the door. This sound make them to hasten inside so that they might clean their hands before coming of anybody. And then scene 3 will begin. The knocking at the gate at the castle becomes more and more insistent. Then a drunken potter who is doing a comic role, kind of role, he rouses himself to open the castle gate, and he imagines himself that he is not a keeper of just a simple gate, but he is a keeper of a gate of hell, and he is getting entry to giving entry to many sinners, and who are giving knocking in the door. But in fact, the people who were knocking at the door were two gentlemen, two noblemen, and they were Macduff and Lennox. Macduff, you remember, he was a Thane of Fife, and he was very loyal to King Duncan. And Lennox, another Scottish general, and who have been entrusted by King Duncan with the task of rousing him in morning. They have been assigned the task of rousing Duncan in morning so that he can go back to his palace. Now Macbeth also comes there, and he shows Macduff the door of a room in which King Duncan is sleeping. Now Macbeth and Lennox begins to talk. Lennox tells of the wild weather which has prevailed throughout the night. It was a very bad night, and the night, he says, has been unruly, during which the owl shrieked all night. He says that many people felt that the earth was shaking. Macbeth agrees with him in this regard. Then Macduff re-enters there and tells them that the King Duncan has been murdered. Macbeth and Lennox rush towards the room of King Duncan while Macduff calls an alarm. The whole court is soon awakened. Lady Macbeth comes there. Banquo also arrives there. Macbeth returns and showing a false concern that Duncan should not have been killed there, and he is very unhappy. He is showing that he is very unhappy, and he says that he died a minute before. This time he would have led a happy life. Lennox tells of how the unwiped daggers by the side of a sleeping chamberlain is there, and then the Macbeth tells them that um, since he was very angry with the death of King Duncan, so he killed those chamberlains. So King Duncan, he has killed both chamberlains, and Lady Macbeth swoons. So Lady Macbeth is feeling so upset, and she faints to, and she's just feigning all this thing, and she's just acting. Then Malcolm and Donalbain, two sons of King Duncan, comes there, and they talk aside. They go to the corner and talk, and they feel that the killing of the two Chamberlain was a far from satisfactory job. Why Macbeth has killed them? They are not satisfied about the guilt of Chamberlains, and they thought that they were innocent. They feel that what has happened to their father might well happen with them also, and so they are seeing a clear threat to their life. As a result, they decide to leave Scotland at the very moment. To make their search more difficult, they decide to live separately. Malcolm decide to go to England, and Donalbin want to go to Ireland. So in this way, they can save their life. Now Banco urges them that if confusion will be all right, confusion will be settled. You must come to Scotland so that they can investigate the murder of your father. Now Scene 4 begins. In this scene, Ross and an old man talk outside the castle of Macbeth, castle of Inverness, and the old man says that during his life of 70 years, he has never seen such kind of night. It was a very bad night. It was giving so much bad omens. Ross tells him about the wilderness of the horses of King Duncan, who wildly stampeded, who wildly made sounds. Soon Macduff joins them, and they begin to talk about the murder of King Duncan. Macduff was very loyal to King Duncan, and he cannot agree with the belief that the two chamberlain, the two guards, murdered their master. Why they should have married. Should have murdered King Duncan, he is asking to himself. They talk about the motives of the murder. There is no motive with Chamberlain. Macduff murder has been put on them. Just they have been framed. And Macduff also tells that Macbeth has been named successor, and his coronations means he will be king now and would take place soon. But he says that he would not attend the coronation because he feels that the rule of the new king would not be happy as that of the previous king, that dead King Duncan. And here what happens, since two sons of King Duncan has fled to England and Ireland, so there was no successor left there. And Macbeth was very loyal to King Duncan, and he was nearest relative to him, so he became king. So the wishes of witches was fulfilled. In this way, we can say that third prophecy of witches were fulfilled. Now we will go to Act 3. We will discuss about Act 3 of Macbeth. Here, here what happens? Scene 1. Back at the castle of Forces. Forces is a castle, place where the castle of Duncan is situated. Banco reflect. Banco thinks about the prophecies that witches has made about Macbeth and how they have all come true in case of Macbeth. He suspects his old comrade, whose old friend, of foul play. Now he is suspecting Macbeth. He also recalls the prophecies that has been made regarding his children, but obviously he takes no step towards the fulfillment of these prophecies. Now Banco is a very nice man, he is a very sincere man, he is a very loyal to king. He also heard the prophecies that his children will become king, but he has done nothing for that because his loyalty comes in way of doing anything. But Macbeth is very ambition, and he killed his dear king Duncan out of his valuing ambition. Now Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, dressed as a king and queen, enters with a procession of attendants. Their wishes have been fulfilled. He clearly talks to Banco, and in thus able to know about Banco, and he's able to know about Banco's plan for day and would be accompanying him. Now, in a soliloquy, in a self statement, Macbeth gives vent to his fears regarding Banco, whose integrity, loyalty to King Duncan might come in the way of his smooth sailing as the King of Scotland. So he is thinking that unless and until Banco is alive and his son is alive, he cannot rule the country, Scotland, very well, because Banco can become threat to him, because Banco know already everything about his doings and his prophecies of witches and everything. Duncan might come in the way that Huh. Now, what happens? There is another reason for this dislike of Banco. While Banco has been hailed as the father of a lineage of king, no such boon has been granted to him, and Macbeth finds that he has not been granted that his son will become king, and because he was childless also at that time, and for these reasons, he determines that he should get rid of Banco and his son Fleance. But he asked Banco to remember the feast and not forget to come to that feast. So Macbeth and Lady Macbeth organizes a grand feast, that banquet, and they invite nobles, ministers, Banco, Fleance, and all people. And here they are planning another murder. And now he inquires of his attendants whether two men are waiting for him or not. That Macbeth is inquiring. When he is told in the positive, he asks that they be brought in his presence. But they talk it is becomes clear that these two men had met Macbeth earlier too. So now Macbeth is hatching a murder plan. He is planning to kill Banco and his son, and he is talking with murderers, the hired murderers. Now he poisons their minds against Banco and impresses upon them that it was Banco only who had always come between them and their betterment in life. And he is instigating them against Banco, and he extracted upon them a promise that they would kill both Banco and Fleance, and but he warns them that they should carry out the murder in such a way that Macbeth is kept free of that blame. He should not be blamed for that. So you go and do your plan. I will give you money, and you will get satisfaction also, because Banco has done so many wrongs to you. So in this way, he have achieved this purpose also. Now, now that Macbeth has become a serial killer, he is killing one by one the people who can affect his happiness. Now, scene two begins here. In scene two, what happens? Lady Macbeth in a room in a palace at a forest ask her husband not at palace at Inverness, ask her husband not to think about such events in manner in which he has been thinking. Don't worry, everything be all right. Don't worry about previous murders. Just concentrate on our happiness and concentrate upon that kingdom. Now she tells him that what has been done cannot be undone, and Macbeth on this part is deeply agitated, and he is not cool-minded as his wife, and he feels that his worries are far from over. His worries are not going to over at any time. His uneasy conscience allows him no peace. He is very disturbed. His wife, however, asks him to appear happy and jovial before the guests that night. Now he has decided on the killing of Banco, but keeps this secret from his wife. Now Macbeth is not giving any clue about the murder of Banco and Fleance to his wife, because he doesn't want to disturb wife. Now he only says that with arrival of night his trouble will be over. Now scene 3 begins. In scene 3, what happens? In a park near the palace, three murderers are waiting for arrival of Banco and his son Fleance. While they are talking, the sound of hooves or horses is heard, and these hooves announces arrival of Banco and Fleance. Like most people, they dismount to some distance from the place. They get out of the horses and take a walk there, and taking the rein of horses, walk the distance. Soon the murderers pounce upon them. They throw on Banco and Fleance, and in this struggle Banco is killed, but taking advantage of darkness, Fleance is young, and Fleance is able to escape that place, and thus only half of the work of murders is performed, and Banco is dead and Fleance is alive. Now now scene 4 begins here. In scene 4, what happens? In the banquet hall, the guests are assembling. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth soon arrive, and there are welcome. They are welcoming the guest. Then Macbeth approaches the door, where the first murderer is waiting to talk to him. From the murderers, Macbeth learns that though Banquo has been killed, Pliance, his son, has been able to escape them. And this news causes suffering to Macbeth once again, because he has hoped that this night be would be free and would be able to rule without any conscience, with any further trouble. But his trouble has no ending. The murderers is dismissed. They go to their homes. Macbeth is thoughtful and pensive. He is very disturbed now again, and his conscience is not leaving him. Lady Macbeth joins him and asks him to join with the guests in their celebration. They already have arranged that banquet, and they have invited people, so people have gathered there. Lennox asks Macbeth to be seated at the table, and at that moment Macbeth sees the ghost of Banquo seated in the seat reserved for him. So in that banquet before all people, Macbeth welcomes them, and he says that I am very happy that you all guys came here, and but I am very unhappy and I am missing my friend Banco. He has not appeared, and he must be coming, but he has not appeared till now. So when he mentioned the name of Banco, ghost of Banco appeared, because Banco was already dead at that time, and this ghost is visible only to Macbeth, not even to Lady Macbeth, and the guest and the Lady Macbeth are not able to see the ghost of Banco. Addressing the gathering, Macbeth says that if only Banco were there, all his distinguished guests would have arrived. Ross says that even if Banco is absent, he must take his seat with the guest. To Macbeth, the table seems full, though for Lennox, the seat of the king is vacant. So, in this place, he sees Banquo's ghost. He sees that in his place, ghost of Banquo is sitting, and he's talking to Banquo, ghost of Banquo, who presence raises uneasy thoughts in Macbeth. He's talking that why you have come here? You are dead already, and you are now a dead body. How can you come here? So he's talking, and other people are watching him. Other people are thinking that what Macbeth is doing. Is he gone mad? Now his wife, Lady Macbeth, however, comes to his rescue and explain to the distinguished guest that Macbeth has often been afflicted by such fits of disease, and he hallucinates, he sees images, and at this time also is afflicted by disease, and he is having visions. But she adds that such fate are momentary and it will go soon. In a aside to her husbands, she asks Macbeth not to be troubled by his fancies. Just behave properly, don't misbehave. She reminds him of his duty as the Lord, and he now Macbeth calls for wine and drink for the health of assembled gathering, and the Banco who is absent. Now Banco is not there, now he is absent, so he is giving toast to him also. No sooner has Macbeth completed his toast that the ghost appears again. Once more Macbeth begins to behave like a person afflicted with disease. On Ross asking what Macbeth has seen, Lady Macbeth urges the company not to speak to her husband. She asks the company and the gathering to excuse her husband by retiring from the place. You please go to your places and because my husband is not feeling well. Soon the guest departs without taking their meal. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are left alone in the palace of Inverness there. Macbeth says that all the guests except Macduff were present and in house of each of his lords he has planted his spy so that he may know what is transpiring there and he can know everything and he feels that now time has come to consult the witches once again and his wife urges him to come to bed so that his troubled mind can be soothed and he could get some rest. So now Macbeth is very worried that other lords and the nobles can also turn against him. So he has planted a spy in their homes, and but his mind has no peace. Now scene 5 begins on the heath of three in the on the heath, a place called Heath, that is a barren land. The three witches meets with Hecate. Hecate is queen of witches. Hecate takes them to task for not consulting him before making the prophecies to Macbeth. Hecate is scolding them, why you prophesied about Macbeth. Now you see there have been so many murders because of that. Now she tells the witches that on following day when Macbeth will come, they must mislead him, and then he want to when he will want to know about his destiny. Hecate says that at that time they should make amends by leading Macbeth on the confusion by making ambiguous prophecies. You must not tell clear things. You must tell things which will be double meaning, ambiguous, so that he can be misled. In this way, you can amend your mistakes. Now, scene 6 begins, and here Lennox and other lords speak about the development in the state affairs, the death after the death of King Duncan, and uh, and the coronation of Macbeth, the death of Banquo and disappearance of Fleance. Malcolm and Dolalben Lennox finds that the rule of Macbeth is tyrannous and they are forced to suffer grievously. Everybody is suffering, nobody is getting peace. The king Macbeth is a very bad king. The disgrace in which Macduff is living in all impressed and since Macduff was very loyal to king, so he is not in good condition after death of King Duncan. But news is given that Malcolm, who has gone to England, is seeking the help of King England. So Malcolm is getting help of England, and so that he can do something about the murder of his father. Macduff has gone to Malcolm to ask him to free Scotland of tyrannous rule of Macbeth. So now Macduff has also decided to join hands with Malcolm, and he has gone to England to consult him and how they can do something to overthrow the kingship of Macbeth. It is a hope that Malcolm and Macduff, assisted by the kings of England and others allies, would be able to attack Scotland and put an end to the rule of Macbeth so that people could once again live happily and without fear and tyranny, and the tyrannous rule of Macbeth will be over. So they are planning, and they are making a large army also. So at this point, this act 3 ends, and thank you so much for watching my video, and please watch next video to know about the remaining acts. Thank you so much.